Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. After that unexpected finishing blow on Matsuri, it seemed like Konohamaru had escaped the Reaper's scythe. However, when standing before an evolved 10 tails, any early victory is nothing more than an illusion. There's a high chance that Muri will soon recover both her body and combat strength, just like Hidari did before. And this time, her return won't just be a battle between two warriors. It will be a vengeful rampage by a betrayed monster. So the real question now is, does Konohamaru still have enough strength to keep fighting, or will he be the next one to fall, triggering the first tragedy of this new arc? And if the situation spirals out of control, will Boruto show up in time to save his master? To answer all these burning questions, today, let's dive into a thrilling theory, Matsuri and the rise of the 10 tails. Among the most dramatic developments in recent chapters, Konohamaru's cunning betrayal deserves to stand alongside Sarada's awakening of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Not only because of the shock factor, but also due to the sheer audacity of it all. As a seasoned leaf ninja, Konohamaru proved to everyone that to survive a deathmatch, to complete a mission, honor and morality must take a back seat. I'm sure I'm not the only one here who condemns this act. By ordinary ethical standards, exploiting someone's emotions, especially a female foe, only to stab them in the back with 2 giant Rasengans is incredibly dirty. But sadly, the battlefield is no place for noble men. In the eyes of a ninja, especially one who survived the 4th Great Ninja War, anything that benefits the village is justified. And Konohamaru did exactly that. However, what truly makes us pause and reflect isn't just the betrayal itself, but Muri's reaction. Right after taking the 2 massive Rasengans, her expression wasn't just shock or pain, it was the complete emotional breakdown of a warrior. The look of someone who placed her trust in another person for the first time, only to be cruelly betrayed. She didn't scream, she didn't curse, but her eyes were filled with hatred, as if writing the opening notes of a tragic new chapter. In that moment, Matsuri realized that maybe love was never a gift meant for a creature like the 10 tails. Just like the human heart, deep, unpredictable, no one can truly foresee what lies within. Matsuri's mistake wasn't weakness, it was trust. And in that trust was a hint of affection. That's why her actions showed hesitation. Even though she wields destructive power, at her core, she's just a young soul in a grown body. And because of that, failure was inevitable. But of course, this is not the end. Will Matsuri return? The answer is, almost certainly. And we all know, when she does, she'll be far more dangerous than ever before. Let's not forget, Hidari once recovered from a near-death battle with Boruto and Sarada. One coincidence is that at that time, he also suffered an injury very similar to Matsuri's, caused by a Rasengan. Therefore, there's no reason why Matsuri couldn't do what Hidari once did, especially since her body hasn't completely disintegrated, but rather just suffered severe damage. On the other hand, Matsuri has the ability to use the Dark Foot Seal, allowing her to teleport back to base or to any location that could support her regeneration. In addition, Matsuri possesses the most powerful Kekkei Genkei, Wood Release. And as history has shown, those who inherited this Kekkei Genkei, from Hashirama to Obito and Madara, all possessed extraordinary healing abilities. It's no coincidence that Wood Release is always ranked among the top. It is one of the most versatile abilities in the shinobi world, capable of offense, defense, control, and even regeneration for its user. That's not to mention the other members like Yura, Mamushi, and Hidari who are already aware of the situation in the desert. If Matsuri sends a distress signal, it's highly likely someone will come to assist, especially Yura, who is gradually becoming the strategic coordinator of the 10 Tails faction. Even if Matsuri is forced to revert to her soul core form, the others could still retrieve it and bring it back to base to aid in her resurrection. Therefore, Matsuri's return to the battlefield is just a matter of time. Although the battle between Konohamaru and Matsuri seemed to have reached its climax with the near-total destruction of the female 10 Tails body, we should all remember that such a quick victory is likely nothing but an illusion. In other words, it's merely the prelude to a much greater nightmare awaiting Konohamaru. Based on my analysis, it's clear that both Konohamaru and Matsuri have their own unique strengths and weaknesses. However, from a broader perspective, the temporary advantage seems to lean toward Konohamaru, at least for now. Why do I say that? First, let's look at their mentality and combat experience. Konohamaru himself is a veteran jonin who has faced numerous major threats and survived countless life and death battles. He is calm, composed, and has a tactical mind honed over many years. Even when faced with a tough situation involving Matsuri, he still showed decisiveness by unleashing a giant Rasengan. This proves that he doesn't let personal emotions interfere with his mission, a key trait of a true warrior. Meanwhile, Matsuri is just a newly created entity formed from the 10 Tails chakra. Although she holds immense power, her psychological state is still immature. She's easily swayed by unfamiliar emotions, especially the feelings she has for Konohamaru. It was precisely this that prevented her from delivering a decisive blow, and that hesitation is a fatal weakness in any battle. Secondly, let's talk about power advantages. On this matter, there's no denying that Matsuri possesses an overwhelmingly superior strength compared to Konohamaru. With wood-style sage art, her regeneration ability, and a nearly limitless chakra reserve, she's become an extremely difficult opponent to eliminate. The fact that Matsuri was able to easily defeat Gaara, one of the strongest Kage, is clear evidence of her overwhelming power. And if it came down to a fair one-on-one fight, chances are Konohamaru would be knocked out in just one round. That's not even considering the real threat he faces. Matsuri isn't alone. She has others backing her, including Yura, Hidari, and Mamushi. If she were to send out a distress signal, Konohamaru would be up against 4 enemies at once. In such a case, in order to maintain the advantage, Boruto would likely be forced to intervene, and that would mark a major turning point in the story. Fairly speaking, Konohamaru is an outstanding student of Naruto and currently the most promising young jonin of the Hidden Leaf Village. This already proves that he's no slouch in terms of ability, at least when facing ordinary human opponents. But right now, the grandson of the 3rd Hokage is up against one of the strongest foes he's ever encountered, with power far beyond anything he's used to. This battle isn't just an opportunity for him to prove himself, but also the final threshold he must cross. Even though he's a skilled warrior, the reality is that Konohamaru is currently badly injured. On top of that, he no longer has any backup and is standing alone against a monster who's both extremely durable and powerful. If Matsuri truly regenerates, Konohamaru will have to face an overwhelmingly strong opponent while already being on the verge of collapse. Should he fail, his death wouldn't just be a massive shock, it would mark the end of the old generation. It would also force Boruto to abandon his role as a bystander and confront the harsh reality of the battlefield. I've often said that the new generation must endure real loss in order to truly grow up. And besides Yodora, Konohamaru is a prime candidate for a spot on the memorial altar. As Boruto's mentor and elder companion during his earliest days, Konohamaru's death wouldn't just be a heartbreaking moment. It would be a wake-up call for the younger shinobi, who are still hesitating between ideals and reality. The question is, what will Boruto do if that situation actually happens? No matter how much he loves and respects his teacher, he's still under the command of Kashin Koji, someone we all know values victory above all else, even over his own emotions. If Koji doesn't allow intervention, will Boruto have the resolve to defy orders? That's what makes Konohamaru's potential death not just an ending, but a moral test for Boruto, a choice between duty and personal feelings. And perhaps, only when Konohamaru truly falls, will Boruto have a valid reason to break free from Kashin Koji's safe zone. For the first time, he would act based on what his heart desires, not because of orders. But by the time Boruto reaches the battlefield, it might already be too late. That delay would ignite a brutal new era, where hesitation becomes nothing but a burden for the survivors. However, that would also be the moment when Boruto truly matures. The pain of losing his teacher would become the driving force pushing him to never stray off course, to ensure no one else suffers the same fate. Because Boruto understands that if he remains weak and hesitant, more people, including his comrades, loved ones, and even the whole world, could fall just like Konohamaru. That's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support Ego Tuna.